All right. We are back for another week of BDLD NFL Week 3 recap, power rankings. It's Tross Dog, a la Tross, checking in. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. How about you, big dog?
It's been a pretty good day. I had Eagles plus 3.5 and the under in that game, that Monday night game. So it was a little frustrating to see. It felt like the Eagles defense really just disappointed. Like, I don't know if the 49ers offense just isn't that good because the way the Eagles played against the Niners was very impressive defensively. I don't know if, I mean, obviously the Falcons aren't very good, but today they just came out there and just got their butts absolutely whooped up front, too. Dallas was running all over them. It was kind of tough to watch, to be honest. But, I mean, it's all right. We ended the week 6-4. Seahawks lost, but overall, not bad. How about you?
Uh, Not much on the betting side. Haven't really been involved in parlays though. Put my first parlay down this week. Um, I'll add another one after watching the responsible bet on Thursday to make sure
Absolutely.
I get some great locks. How was the week? How was the responsible bet week? Give us a preview.
I mean, me personally, I think I went 6-4 in the NFL, maybe 7-4. So not bad. And then in college, I went 2-1. I've decided I'm kind of only going to pick a few college games because once you start getting all those college games, you just start realizing you don't actually know what's going to happen in these games. So it's just better to smart money. Where it's a responsible bet for a reason. And so I think we did pretty well. I think overall you're going to see pretty good results. So hey, keep tuning in, guys. Keep tuning in.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, shall we dive right into the games?
Yeah, let's dive right in. I'm so down.
All right, I kind of talked about it earlier. I mean, let's start with the Monday night game because we're fresh off that beatdown.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles just got dominated. I don't think there's much to say. I thought the Eagles' play calling was pretty bad early on. They didn't run the ball. Miles Sanders had 2 carries in the whole game, I believe. They kind of just they couldn't get a drive going, and they never ran the ball, and so Dallas is just having their way with them. And I thought Dallas looked impressive, especially up front.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's exciting to see. I'm not the biggest Ezekiel Elliott fan, and I still think Tony Pollard played better in the game and looked more explosive.
Yep.
Um, it's exciting to see Zeke actually having a productive day.
I mean, I actually thought Zeke looked pretty good.
No, he looked better than he has in the last like year and a half. But
Like he was kind of trekking people big time.
uh,
I'll give
you
him
talked a
that.
lot about the Eagles, so I'll talk about the Cowboys. Trayvon Diggs, 3 straight interceptions in 3 straight games, which is interesting for the pretty much second-year rookie that started last year, who was really like scrutinized, had a rough season.
I thought he was. I mean,
Uh,
he was bad.
still, still, this season has been pretty poor. Don't let the
I agree.
interception you, but like I think the whole defense stepped up. They had a great game against the Chargers, and they really like kept that going. So maybe the Cowboys are a great team to look at. Dak still looks great. Dalton Schultz got 2 touchdowns today, so that's another weapon that you could say adding to their core. I mean, obviously the Gallup injury, but could it be attributing to that? But Cooper, Lamb, Schultz, two pretty good running backs, you could say. I mean, this team is dangerous. Still, Zach Martin's the highest grade offensive lineman in the league right now.
Yeah. I mean,
A lot
their
of
offensive line highest
positives.
graded run defense or run blocking line in the league, and I think that's gonna carry over because they straight up dominated. We'll talk about it more as we get into the later segments. Maybe the power rankings. Dallas might get mentioned. Uh, I think Dallas is actually pretty scary right now. There are still some concerns about their defense. I don't think the Eagles really tested them, but we'll find out. We'll find out later. But let's move on to the Thursday night game. That happened. It felt like a week ago already. But Carolina, uh, 24, Houston 9. Kind of felt like a boring game the whole time. Davis Mills was out there for the Texans. They never really put up a fight. It felt like to me.
Yeah, it just looks like the Texans are already throwing in the towel on the season, which people thought was already going to happen after week 1, but obviously they came out and got a big game win against the Jags. I also think it's maybe not as much the Texans looking bad, but I think this Carolina defense is something real. I mean, that's 2 straight weeks holding their opponents under 10 points.
It's true.
Obviously, made Zach Wilson had a terrible day in the first half, and they played him, and one garbage time TD kind of kept that under. So they're averaging around. I think the number is like something close to like 12 or 11 after 3 games, which is just a ridiculous stat line. It's
Tell that to the Broncos. I think they're giving up like 6 points.
You're right. You're right. The Jets are averaging 6 points on offense.
Yeah,
So
it's we'll get to
that's
that.
the worst offense in league history. But we will get to that. So I think the Texans are kind of throwing in the towel. It's interesting. They'll probably draft a quarterback.
Yeah, I actually thought Davis Mills looked pretty good in the second half. In the first half, up until the last drive, he had 4 passing attempts, and I think when he actually started throwing, he looked pretty good. I don't know how much you watched of that game, but he was making some decent throws. Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna win games, but I'd say Davis Mills has potential.
Yeah, I think the Texans. Well, yeah, there's not much to say about the Texans. Brandon Cooks is a shining star in a dim night sky.
That's one way to put
One of
it.
the most underrated receivers in the league. I mean, this might be his 8th season with 1,000 yards or something like that, and like maybe
If he
not
gets it, yeah.
like 6. I mean, he's on track to do it. He's got over 303 games. But talking about the Panthers, the only concerning thing is you got J.C. Horn going out with an injury, and he's one of the lowest quarterback ratings when targeted this
I believe
season.
he's done for the year. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a serious injury. CMC obviously more of a fantasy concern for a lot of people because he's only out for a couple weeks. But
I mean, he's their biggest weapon on offense, I'd say.
Yeah. DJ Moore had a great week though.
He did, but he also got banged up that game. He was limping off.
I think this was the game where maybe I'm a little bit more buying into Sam Darnold. He looks a lot better. Had like a pretty good graded game according to PFF. I think it was at 82.9. So I'm in on the Panthers. We'll talk about it later, but I'm in on the Panthers.
Yep, Panthers overall basically controlled the game as they should if they want to get respected, to be an actual good team in this league. And to the note of J.C. Horn getting injured for the rest of the year, the Panthers did execute a trade today. So they traded their 5th-round pick and Dan Arnold, who is a promising tight end, for C.J. Henderson in a 3rd-round pick. Or actually swapped those picks. So they're clearly trying to continue this momentum going. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they actually play like a contender. I'll say the Saints aren't that. Let's move on. Buffalo takes the victory over the Washington football team 43-21. For me, we can talk about the Bills being obviously dominant in this game, but I think the story here is the Washington defense is just not good this year. Let me give you guys some stats. So Washington ranks 31st on 3rd down defense with a 58.7% conversion rate, which would be, I think, bottom in the last 20 years. They're not even last, to be fair. Washington ranks 29th in scoring defense at 30.7 and 31st in yards allowed at 432. So overall, their defense that was so vaunted and was supposed to at least give them a shot at getting to the playoffs is not good. Their offense behind Heineke is okay, but the only way this team is going to win is with a good defense.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're asking a lot. I thought even Heineke looked pretty decent in the game, and it's frustrating to see like how many they're so populated. Maybe the loss of Ryan Kerrigan is something that is understated because.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be though. You know what I mean? Like they still have so much talent on paper on that D line. I mean, I get it. It definitely will hurt, but it shouldn't be this much of a gap, in my opinion.
Yeah, no. They didn't look like they got pressure on Josh Allen, and the Bills moved the ball at will. And even with some lucky plays, the game was a lot. The score says it's close, but it was not that close. This game was not close at all from the get-go.
It wasn't close.
41-43 is a generous score, I think.
Yeah, I thought Buffalo did a great job of taking advantage of their turnovers that the Washington team had, which were pretty bad.
How about one of the craziest kicks of all time too? That kickoff. Dustin Hopkins returns his or throws his own kickoff. The wind conditions were insane.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so for people who missed it, he kicked the ball and it started coming backwards. That's how strong the winds were. It basically just hit a wall of wind, and they
I mean,
managed to
bounced off
recover
of
it.
like the Bills.
Like I don't even know
Play.
if you can blame the Bills right there. So
Yeah, it's a very fluky play, and even then, like they scored off that drive. You got to think like that this game could have been a lot worse. Josh Allen back to form. You're not a big Josh Allen guy. Um, I mean, he didn't play insanely well. He had a lot of open receivers. Manuel Sanders open a lot. Cole Beasley was open a lot.
yeah, I thought he played definitely better than he has, but again, who even knows like what this Washington defense is?
True, true.
I mean, Danny Dimes tore him up last week.
He did. I mean, he put in an insane grade.
I
So
mean, the Giants could have won that game had they not get a ticky tack holding call too. So, yeah, main takeaway I thought from this game, Washington struggles. Their outlook is not looking good. They're gonna need I don't know. They're gonna need to wake up on defense because the offense is not gonna carry them.
yeah, I think my main takeaway is probably the Bills are gonna run away with the AFC East, which we expected, but we were a little concerned about it after the first
I
week.
agree. Yeah, Dolphins with the Tua injury, they're just.
Yeah, they're 1-2 right now,
I just
and
don't see
they're
it getting
the
much
biggest.
better. Even with Tua back, it might take a bit.
The Patriots also put up a terrible week against the Saints. We'll get up to.
Yeah.
So not many contenders in that, and obviously the Jets. So we're not even need to talk about the Jets being a contender.
Yeah, Cleveland was the next game. Cleveland 26 or Chicago 6. This is just dominant, dude. I mean, Justin Fields out there, his first start in the NFL, and maybe all the critics saying, why aren't they starting Justin Fields? Andy Dalton is so bad. I think you saw a reason why. It looked like Fields wasn't ready. I don't think anyone helped him out. The O-line was terrible. The play calling was bad, but Fields also was bad. So
Yeah, I see a lot of people calling for Nagy's head right now.
I mean, that's
Saying
what we talked about the first week.
we did, but it's not only that. They're thinking that he sabotaged the game. I mean, this is conspiracy theories at its finest. I think he sabotaged the game, sabotaged the play calling to make him look like the right decision. I think the most interesting part about this is you saw in the press conference, he said the next week they could potentially start Andy Dalton, Justin Fields, or Nick Foles, which is just crazy to me. I mean, that's so harsh to Justin Fields. I
I
mean,
think
they
you
give
got
him
to start him. I think you got to bench him. I mean,
after
listen to
one
me.
game.
It's not about Fields playing bad. It's about protecting him. Like I've heard this numerous times from ex NFL players. It does it'll slow their progress if they're so rattled out there. Like they're getting confused. They're getting dude. He got hammered by Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney and those guys. So I think there's value in not letting him play if it's gonna be this ugly.
Yeah, you could definitely be right. I am Team Fire Nagy. I think midseason he's out. I talked about
Yeah.
it week one. I said if they go 1-4, that the Bears should fire Nagy, and I rock with that. This offense has looked. I mean, maybe who knows? I saw people even talking about how he's the reason that Mitchell Trubisky sucks, and not Mitchell Trubisky being Mitchell Trubisky. So it's a lot to think about with the Bears. You want to talk about the Browns for a little bit?
Yeah, sure, we can talk about them. I mean, they handled this game. Defense finally showed up. Jock, Jeremiah Owusu Kamara looks pretty dominant. I think
Like
he's allowed to
playing
play
that
really
game.
fast because, well, I'll say they've had the last two games have been pretty easy for them, but he's allowed to play pretty fast because their D-line is really good up front. So he can kind of just react and not have to make up for play in front of him that lacks. But yeah, I mean, they kind of handled their everything. They look good.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt obviously had a monster day against the Bears. They look like they could run the ball at will. Still haven't seen Baker really test it out. OBJ made his return after tearing his
He
ACL last
did.
season. Interesting story.
It's exciting to see that.
It is exciting to see that the game is better with Odell Beckham, even though he may have his haters and he may have his fans. I think I probably am leaning towards the hater than a fan, but that's exciting to see Beckham back in the uniform for sure.
I mean, it opens up another layer for their offense too. So if they can
It
unlock
does.
that, then
100% the best deep threat on that roster.
they could be dangerous. So
Yeah,
even
it
more
adds another
dangerous.
element.
Yeah, let's jump to Baltimore 19 over Detroit 17. This was an ugly game from start to finish. Like, if you watched that game, you saw Lions did an excellent job at containing Lamar. Like, he was not really able to scramble. Even on their running plays, he couldn't really get that much going. And obviously, there was those two big drops by Hollywood Brown. This game could be a little bit more wide open, but I mean, Lions played well. I was pretty impressed by their defense. Their offense struggled. It's kind of hard to judge this game because I thought Baltimore was very injured, but they ended
Yeah,
up pulling it out with the obvious headline: JT
yeah,
66 yarder.
probably one of the craziest moments I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, I mean, we talked about the Bears just now about how Justin Tucker's field goal is longer than the Bears' entire total offense. That was a big stat going around on Twitter after the game. Um, but yeah, I think the big takeaways for me for both teams is I think the Ravens are really they're devoid of talent on both sides of the ball. Like I think they got a few guys that are pretty good. Marlon Humphrey, um, Calais Campbell, I think, is one of those guys. Lamar Jackson. And I think their roster is really bad on the O line. I think it's a really like the worst O line. They read their O line the last 2 years before this, and I think it's a really bad O line. I think Marquise Brown is the clear number one receiver, and he can't catch a ball. Javonte Williams is or Tyson Williams. Excuse me, Javonte Williams is the back for the Broncos. Tyson Williams struggled today against a team that looked like they could be run on easily without Trey Flowers. Like they were getting pressure on Lamar Jackson consistently without their best pass rusher, and there was a lot of rookies on that offensive line or that defensive line. Like Levi Onwuzurike was looking good. The Aquaras were looking good. I'm really concerned about the Ravens. So I think that's the takeaway for the Ravens. And for me, the Lions, I think they have the right coach. I think even in all the losses this year, they've looked like a team that wants to play, which you
For
can't say the
sure,
same
for sure.
about a lot of 0-3 teams in the league right now.
They wanna eat some kneecaps, dude. They're
They do. I think
fighting, dude.
Dan Campbell, and I saw it on his face. I'm really disappointed. I wish it wasn't the Lions, but I mean, of course it happened to the Lions. You know, the 66 yarder because they played so well in that drive. Is the crazy throw to I think it was Devin Duvernay,
Hmm.
um, on like 4th and 19, I believe, after getting
Yeah.
sacked. I mean, what was their win percentage at that point? It was so high. I mean, it's really disappointing for the
Yeah.
Lions.
I mean,
I
I
think
think
they're
the
going to
Lions
go
should have got that W,
get
but
a high pick in the draft, and I think they're going to be a better team
bad things
next year.
happen to bad teams,
Maybe
to be honest.
7 or 8 win team next year. That's the hope.
Yep, I agree. Baltimore's not looking too hot, but they have been winning, and sometimes in the end, doesn't really matter how you get there, but if you
Wow,
get
what a
there.
quote.
Next game, Tennessee at Indianapolis, 25-16. I think it might be a little bit too early to call, but it feels like the AFC South is wrapped up. Tennessee is going to run away with this thing. Indianapolis is in serious trouble after falling 0-3. Obviously, the Jaguars and the Texans aren't much of a threat. Um, and I think this reflects more on Indianapolis because they can't do anything on offense. Carson Wentz still is showing the inability to drive the ball down the field, I believe. His average depth of target right here is 7.0, and his yards per attempt is 5.2, which is painfully low. I believe Teddy Bridgewater is like 10.0 yards per attempt right now, something crazy like that. So basically doubling his production. Yeah, I'm just not impressed with the Colts bottom to top. Their O-line is injured too. It just doesn't seem like it's going to get better.
Oh, yeah. I called it a couple weeks ago. You said, I don't think they're going to fire Frank Reich. I think Frank Reich gets fired by the end of the season, or maybe after the end of the season. I think the Colts don't make the playoffs. They're struggling too much, even in their division where they could get 4 free wins. I just don't see it happening for the Colts.
No,
I
I think
think
there's too many contenders in the
how can you
AFC.
justify the Colts with their roster and the expectations of being a 6 or 7 win team, which I think they're going to be, to keep Frank Reich in the job, maybe even lower than 6 or 7 wins.
They'll probably win six or
It's definitely a hot
seven.
take. But
Yeah, I don't think Frank Reich is going to get fired just because he's produced with not great quarterback play, and in this league, it's very quarterback driven. So how much can you really expect of him? All right, I don't want to spend too much time on this game. One final note on Tennessee. I thought it was a big overreaction from week one. I think they're obviously a better team than that. And especially in the markets, I think you can get great value for Tennessee right now because they're still being undervalued from that week one blowout. I think looking forward, they're gonna start covering some of these spreads and until they get favored. Moving on.
point to that is yesterday the spread of the Jets Titans game was plus 7.5. Or minus 7.5 for the Titans. That is
that's free money.
That as soon as possible.
Trust me, that will be on the card, and it should be on your card.
It will change. It will change for sure.
It's gonna move 100%. So get on it now. LA Chargers at Kansas City. This is one of the biggest games of the weekend. I thought two of the big contenders, two of the big upcoming powerhouse in the AFC West and the known powerhouse in the AFC West battling it out. And I thought turnovers were the name of the game. Just goes to show Pete Carroll's right. You gotta control the ball.
Yeah, a lot to unpack in this game. I thought, obviously, Andy Reid went home went to the hospital with illness. I'm glad he's okay. The reports are good. Patrick Mahomes had 2 turnovers or 2 picks, 2 fumbles. Else for the Chiefs. So obviously, turnovers is the name of the game. 4 turnovers, the Chiefs are going to win, especially when they can't stop a freaking feather from falling. Like, it's so bad. the Chiefs defense and the Seahawks defense are fighting for the worst defenses in the league right now. I mean, obviously on real teams. No offense, Jaguars, Texans, and Jets.
And the Washington.
True, Washington probably could be in there as well.
They are.
I thought the Chargers frustrated me. A little bit of bias here because I was playing against Mike Williams, but what the play calling at the end was a little questionable. A lot of the 4th and 9. I thought, wow, we're gonna praise Brandon Staley for that call. That call was terrible. 4th and 9 in your own half, or 4th and 4. I get it. You line up. The offensive line has had insane issues. Illegal shifts destroyed them all game.
They were so
destroyed them
sloppy.
last week against the Cowboys.
They almost choked that 100%.
They almost choked that. I'm thinking 4th and 4. You're in field goal range, and I get it. This guy, obviously missed the extra point. So
it was crazy windy though, too. If you notice, the flags were howling. I mean, I don't think that was like a 50-yarder. I want to say.
Yeah,
53.
I just think
I don't know if I like that personally. But.
You don't get a 4th and 9. Even then, punt the ball. Like, if you don't get a 4th and 9, get that 4th and 9, I think you just confirmed you've lost. And that's bold to make a huge play on 4th and 9. And I think hindsight, it worked out, but I think Brandon Staley's coaching and clock management in the end of the game was terrible.
I don't. That's funny. I think going for the 4th downs there were actually smart. I think the bad play calling was at the end after they got that, when they got down to the goal line.
Yeah.
Throwing that touchdown pass when you're tied up, all you need is a field goal. You could down the ball twice and then just kick a field goal, a 20-yarder, not a 50-yarder. So big difference in odds there. You basically don't miss those.
It's even way different than an extra point, like.
But at least burn some time down. Like, you have timeouts. They could have burned some time and then thrown it, and then even tried to run it on 4th down or throw down it on 1st down, take a timeout. If Chiefs don't take a timeout, take it down it again. Then go for the pass on 3rd down, go for a play, and then kick the field goal with no time left. Like, leaving 30 seconds or whatnot to Patrick Mahomes.
How many
They
what
almost
happened?
they kind of got close.
Look
I don't like
exactly
that
what
part.
happened to Aaron Rodgers and the Niners. Like that's such a similar situation. It's like
Yeah,
both teams had no timeouts. Like that could have easily happened to the Chargers, and it would completely have been their fault. The Niners game is a much more understandable situation
yeah. I mean,
than
the Niners needed to score a touchdown.
yeah.
In the Chargers
It's
game,
a
they were
tie
tied.
game.
So
So it's maybe
I
it's the
thought that
fact
was
that they're using
bad.
their defense because of how many turnovers they forced already. But I still think Brandon Staley. I mean, he's a defensive guy too, so I still think it
I
was a questionable call.
I think the
But
other part of this is the how you mentioned they went on that 4th and 4. They went on that 4th and 9. There wasn't really much hesitation about it. Every team is gonna try and not give the ball back to the Chiefs. I
yeah,
don't think any team is gonna be passive anymore. Even if it's not technically the right call, I feel like against the Chiefs, it could be better, right? Like
yeah,
if you look at the probability, it's all based on years of data, but it's not based on years of data against the Chiefs, right? So I think there's merit to kind of skewing those odds a little bit. Um, and every
I
team's going to do it. Every team should do it, I think, to be honest.
my take on that is I think the 4th and 1 with Lamar Jackson is a completely different scenario than a 4th and 9 in your own half
It
or
wasn't
the
in their own
midfield.
half. They still had like a 50
It's at midfield.
yarder.
It's midfield. Yeah,
No, it
but
was closer. It was like 40. It was like their 40 because they still could have kicked that 4th and 9, but it was like a long 50
I don't
yarder.
know. Yeah, that seems unlikely, but I don't know. And they got bailed out. I think it was a tiki taka pass interference call.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they almost choked it too because Mike Williams had that on 2nd down to get converted. Probably could have housed it, to be honest. Um, at 3rd down, it kind of got broken up. But on
Yeah,
overall, what are your thoughts? Like Chargers looking good. They had some struggles last week, but I think as the season progresses with the new defensive coordinator, they're kind of gelling together still. They're definitely contending for a wild card, maybe even the title. We'll
they can win the
see.
division. Who
We'll
knows? The
see.
AFC
We'll
West is
see.
wide open.
Yep. All right,
All
let's
four
move on
teams.
then. New Orleans 28, New England 13. I thought this was one of the more boring games of the week. New Orleans kind of controlled it from the get go. Mac Jones threw 2 picks. Uh, Saints aren't putting up any yards, but they didn't have to. They got a pick six and then another pick. After that, New England kind of dominated, or New Orleans kind of dominated.
Yeah. Interesting that the Saints have played in all 3 games have been decided by two possessions or more. Just kind of crazy to think about. I mean, how rare is that? And they kind
True.
of been like under the radar. These blowouts. They're not watched. People turn the TV off. So I don't know. Really, there's still a lot to see about the Saints. Consistency is a huge factor. Mac Jones had his rookie game, you could say. And not much to unpack here. I think this was a definitely a plausible result going into the game, and it's not shocking to me. And I think both teams are still in the similar positions where they're kind of on the outside looking in. But we'll see.
Yeah, and I think again this shows that rookie quarterbacks just like having expectations for them is just crazy because it's so hard. One stat I'll drop before we move on. So as a head coach, Sean Payton has only been higher than 10th in the league in yards per game twice in his career. So most of his career, like 14 years as a head coach, he's been top 10 in yards per game, except for twice. Last year he was 19th, which is the highest he's ever been. This year he's coming in at 31st with 243 yards per game, worse than the Jets. Now I know game script has kind of been affecting that, but still their offense is not that great with Jameis Winston at the helm. We'll see when they come against a better team what happens.
Yeah.
All right, next game, kind of another dud of the weekend. Atlanta 17, New York Giants 14. What are your thoughts?
I mean, both these teams are really fighting to be 0-3. It's the ugly game.
That's a great way to
There's
put it. That's
injuries
a
on
great way to
both
put it.
sides.
They were fighting to be 0-3.
The Giants, I mean, I gotta say, a little gripe with the Giants right now. What are they doing with Kadarius Toney? Like, what is the plan there? He's your fourth, fifth guy in the depth chart. 4th, 5th guy in the depth chart. And he's your, like, 4th, 5th guy in the depth chart. And he's your, like, 4th, 5th guy in the depth chart. And he's your, like, 4th, 5th guy in the depth chart. And he's your, like, 4th, 5th guy in the depth chart. you get your two main guys, two of your top three receivers injured, Shepard and Slayton. Kenny Galladay's coming in with a banged up injury. So Tony gets in the game. He gets one catch. He makes it look good. Like he had a good catch, a good play after the catch. This guy was drafted in the first round. Remember, this is the Giants' first round draft pick.
I recall.
And then I forget who it was, but I think the other guy. I'm gonna have to look at the box score because I don't even know his name. He got like 4 or 5 targets, and they didn't do anything. He was barely on the field. And I think Kadarius Toney's talented. I thought it was a little bit of a reach for me, but I thought he was still a top 10 receiver for sure in the draft.
Let me say one thing before you keep going. I think one of the reasons is he missed a bunch of time in the offseason. Like he was injured all during training camp, but I think he only started practicing like in prep for week 1. That was his first like practice. But I mean, with the injuries, didn't Shepard and Slayton go down?
Yeah, Shepard and Slayton go down, and Kadarius Toney did not play that much.
Now he's got to play.
Colin Johnson was who got five receptions for 51 yards on 7 targets, and I think he was picked up in that week or something like that. So that's my issue with it, really. So maybe there's some flaws there. I think Gordon talk about the Falcons. Mike Davis and Cordell Patterson are kind of just the only things on offense really because they can't pass block to save their life.
Yeah, and Ryan can't handle any pressure.
It sucks that Calvin Ridley is probably not going to have a great year just because they can't even have enough time for him to run routes.
Mm-hmm.
So both these teams are going to finish below 5 wins in my opinion, and there's not much to say.
Yeah, I think Falcons are just basically restarting. Their roster is devoid of talent. They need a new QB. I think Ryan needs to move on. For the Giants, it felt like a must-win. I mean, they had a chance this year to fight for the division, and it looks like that's just not happening again. And it could get real ugly.
Yeah, 2 game-winning field goals in back-to-back weeks, essentially. All right, that's what happened.
You're right. Let's move on. Cincinnati 24 over Pittsburgh 10. So Cincinnati's quietly 2-1. Good for them. I mean, the Vikings don't look terrible. They kind of got lucky in that game. But they straight up handled the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. I think Pittsburgh has a Ben problem. I think we've talked about this before, but I think he's the worst quarterback in the NFL that's not a rookie. And they have a youth problem. I guess it's mostly Ben is the youth problem. But their O-line is not very good.
It's very bad.
Ben is not very good. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are finishing above 500 this year.
So I think Ben attempted 58 passes in this game, with I think 17 of those going to Najee Harris.
19.
19
targets. 19
targets. It's just a ridiculous 2 stats. Ben, I think they're like 4-10. This is off the top of my head, but 4-10. I think when Ben throws over 50 passing attempts, something like that. I agree with you. I think Ben is probably, if he's not the worst quarterback in the league, top rookie quarterbacks, he's definitely in that bottom tier. And I do think, however, they were struggling with big injuries on both sides of the ball. T.J. Watt didn't play.
They were not healthy.
Deontay Johnson did not play. Those are 3 key guys for this team.
But to the fact the game wasn't close.
It wasn't. I think 10-14 is a generous score. Or 10-24, I mean.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I mean, I think the Bengals, I think Joe Burrow played pretty poorly, too. I think the Steelers' defense is good.
What was good?
Defense might be pretty good, too.
A reflection of the injuries. Joe Burrow only got hit once yesterday.
Yeah. That is true. That's probably got to be a low. I'm not sure, but
yeah, their O-line wasn't really good in the other games, but maybe they're getting better.
Yeah, I completely forgot my train of thought there. Trey Hendrickson, I think had 2 sacks today. Sam Hubbard was dominating. I mean, that's just not something you want to see for the Steelers' offensive line. Maybe it's a sign. Trey Hendrickson obviously had a great year last year.
Yeah, he's not bad.
He's doing well this year to start. So maybe the Bengals' defense is a lot better. I mean, obviously you have Jesse Bates and William Jackson, who have always been pretty good. on that team. So the Bengals could be an outside shout to make the playoffs this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see it, especially with how weak the North, maybe with how beatable the Ravens and Steelers are like compared to previous years.
Yep. I think they have a shot. I don't know if it's a great one.
Yeah,
Let's move on to Arizona, 31 over Jacksonville. I just think Jacksonville is clearly one of the two worst teams with them and the Jets. I just don't even know. I think their best chance of getting a win is against the Texans this year. I don't know if they play the Jets, but that would be their best chance. It's just ugly for the most part. Like that, like they were kind of in the game because they had that amazing run back for a touchdown by Jamal Agnew. But then there's a flea flicker call when they're up 19-17. Trevor Lawrence throws one of the worst passes I've seen this year. Probably the worst pass I've seen this year off his back foot. Pick 6, Byron Murphy. Game's basically over. I mean, Arizona wasn't clean, but
man, we're not clean. I mean, James Conner and 2 rushing TDs. DeAndre Hopkins looks like struggling with his rib injury. You saw AJ Green doing yards, which is nice to see. First time in a long time, and definitely a guy who can make the Hall of Fame. He puts up good numbers in Arizona. I think the story for Jacksonville is turnovers. They lead. Trevor Lawrence is
it's just Trevor Lawrence.
lead leader in turnovers.
He's struggling. He's
got 9 on the season after 3 games. The Jacksonville Jaguars lead the league. It's frustrating because the difference between the Jaguars and the Jets is the Jaguars move the ball. They move the ball. They have potential. They have weapons. Like, I mean, it's not great, but Marvin Jones, DJ Chark, and Laviska Shenault are useful guys.
We've seen some good throws from Trevor, like that one touchdown pass he had to the corner.
But to DJ Chark, that was a dime.
That was disgusting. But then it's just the bad is too big. It's too much. It's too bad, often, and
They're killing themselves.
It's too egregious. Yeah.
It is. And obviously the Jaguars defense, nothing impressive on that side of the ball. They just traded away C.J. Henderson, obviously. So
yeah. I mean, expectations were low, but it seems like they're going below them.
So, I do think that in Week 16, you're going to see 2 0-14 teams playing each other. That'll be the Jaguars and the Jets.
Yeah.
So.
They do play? They do play? Oh,
yeah, they do.
My God.
Week 16.
Is that Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football? Guarantee it is, dude. They always do that.
We'll look, actually. That would be funny.
All right, yeah. So I don't think there's much to say about Arizona. I think they have an exciting matchup next week with the Rams, which I'll be excited to watch and recap. Let's move on. Another fun one. Denver 26, New York Jets 0. The Jets offense I've seen bad, but this is honestly so terrible. Zach Wilson just can't put it together. Denver has the easiest schedule. We'll talk about it in a bit, but they haven't really been tested. But to their credit, they've dominated. So
they've dominated all 3 teams. Yeah. This team could have been a lot worse.
Possibly the 3 worst teams in the league. I'll say, but
yeah, Devontae Williams had a fumble on the goal line. And this game, Teddy Bridgewater didn't get a passing touchdown, which fantasy owners will be a little sad about that. But
Cortland Sutton owners, but
okay, sure.
Well, actually, in kind of
Melvin Gordon, touchdown machine.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the biggest news maybe of this game is that not Jalen Reagor, what's his name? He was their first or second round pick. KJ Hamler.
No, KJ Hamler was second round.
He tore his ACL, so they're down Hamler and Judy. It'll be interesting to see how that gets broken up.
The good thing is Tim Patrick's really come alive in for the Broncos in these first 3 games.
Broncos have some weapons, especially if those guys are healthy.
As well as a first rounder for sure.
I mean, Judy's gonna come back, so Judy, Sutton, Fant. I guess Hamler's gone, but those 3 guys plus Tim Patrick, that's a solid wide receiver core.
Yeah. And of course they got 2 running backs right now.
That's very capable.
Yeah. The defense looks strong. The pass rush looks monstrous. I don't know how much, like you said, it's 3 of the worst offenses in the league. So I don't know how much you can really take away from it. I think the Jets-Jaguars undefeated bowl will happen December 26th. It's a Sunday. Mark your calendars. Jaguars-Jets.
Right, thank God. I can put another game on.
Right now the spread's +1.5 Jaguars. So
All right, let's move on. Las Vegas, 31 over Miami 28. This is the second overtime game for the Raiders. And you know what? It hasn't been pretty. I guess Raiders, Steelers, I mean, against the Steelers was probably their best complete game. Hasn't been pretty, but they've been winning. And I think they deserve some respect, to be honest, because they haven't been beating chumps, right? Like, the Dolphins aren't a bad team. Steelers and Ravens are both, they're not top of the league, but they're definitely not bad. So just to win those games in the NFL, it's hard. So I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
yeah, I think 31-28 is a generous score. I thought the Dolphins struggled to move the ball for the majority of this game. I'm surprised they even came back. They had the 4th-and-goal touchdown. Jacoby Brissett to tie the game, and the 2-point conversion. Their big play was I think it was the Landon Roberts touchdown, 80-yard touchdown interception, and that was just miscommunication with the offense. I think Foster Moreau sat down. It was a drag option route probably, and he sat down. Derek Carr thought he was going to keep going. I actually think it was on Derek Carr because I think Foster Moreau made the right read with his own, but it's such a bang play. I think the game was in the control of the Raiders for the entire time.
I agree. Yeah, and as you mentioned, they had that pick six, which was a big reason why it even got to overtime. It shows. I mean, the Raiders have suffered through some adversity, even against the Ravens. Like, they were down. They had that pick on the goal line when they should have won, and they still end up winning these games. So it's kind of impressive to see this team play with a lot of fight. It'll be interesting to see who do they play next week.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see how they do in the future. But let's move on. Unless you have any more comments on that game.
No, I don't. Let's move on. I'll talk about it. I'll start it. So this was obviously the America's Game of the Week. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, your favorite duo, was on it.
My all-time faves.
A lot of big expectations. A lot of people have these two teams as the two of the top three teams in the NFL for sure. Maybe even your top two. And from start to finish, the Rams dominated. I mean, you could see that Stafford even had jitters in the beginning, and this game could have been a lot worse than it was. Obviously, another garbage time TD for Giovanni Bernard that made his score 34-24, when in reality it's probably 34-17. That was what's going to finish it. So, I mean, we're going to talk about it later, but for both of us, the Rams are the clear number one. We talked about it last night. They're 3-0. They've beaten the Bucs, who was essentially the clear number one last week. It's hard to argue. Cooper Kupp might break some serious records this year because he's no sign of slowing down.
Yeah, no. I mean, the Rams look really good. I agree. Even though Matt Stafford was missing throws early on, like that Rams offense felt pretty unstoppable. Deshaun Jackson was getting behind him. Felt like every play, every time, like they dialed up a deep ball or a deep route for Deshaun Jackson, it was working.
It was wide open. Stafford missed it. Like I was saying, Stafford missed it twice.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he hit it. He hit it too, and they scored so easily. I felt like they could basically get whatever they wanted on offense. Even Sony Michel looked decent. On the flip side of that, Tampa Bay struggled on offense. I know they had some injuries.
Super scary almost moment for Robert Gronkowski too.
Yeah, Gronk was out for like a quarter or a few minutes. Yeah, that'll probably last at least a couple weeks, maybe the rest of the year. We'll see.
It was a run game. I mean, I think Ronald Jones and Fournette both have 4 carries in the day. Like, you can't win. What they've done well is balance their running game with their passing game. But when you can't run the ball, you can't pass the ball.
Yeah, so
it also looks like it's not slowed down.
Yeah, they don't look as good as last year, I'd say, but they're still great. I mean, Tom Brady really struggled. They got him off his spot a little bit. Aaron Donald, obviously. I just felt like Rams were in control the entire game. Most people's number one team in the league.
The step back is expected for the defense. I thought it was going to be bigger with the Brandon Staley loss, but this defense looks good, man. It looks good. I thought John Johnson was a huge loss too, but they still look strong everywhere. So They could be the best defense in the league, and they could be the best offense in the league. So I think the Rams are super dominant right now.
They are dominant. It'll be. I'm excited for that Cardinals game because I think the Cardinals are actually pretty legit. Obviously. Let's move on. Minnesota at Seattle. We touched on that. Go check it out on the channel. Our Week 3 reaction to the beatdown the Vikings put on the Seahawks. I think biggest takeaways there. Seahawks defense sucks, and the Vikings probably should be at least 2-1 or 3-0. They're a solid team. They could contend for the NFC North. I mean, they just gotta peel one off the Packers and get lucky. I think they have a chance though.
Yeah, I mean, if the Packers didn't win Sunday night, which we'll get to, that division would be all losing records.
Yeah, I think Minnesota's scary. We'll see how they play against the Packers. I don't know when that matchup is, but that'll be fun. Last game, Green Bay 30, San Francisco 28, Sunday Night Football. Packers were in control for a lot of that game until kind of the end when I thought the refs really bailed out the Niners. They had that long PI against Eric Stokes, where it just felt like every single time the Packers were about to get a stop, they didn't get a call, or they got a call against them. Yeah, what was your thoughts in last night's game?
I think there's a lot of things to go around. I think Devontae Adams was just disgustingly monstrous.
Back to normal.
But I agree with you. I think the calls weren't in their favor. Obviously, that huge miss on the helmet-to-helmet call. I think the Packers are back. I think this game was really close between two teams that were definitely playoff worthy. I don't know if both teams make the playoffs, but Niners will have more of a difficulty than the Packers just because how weak the Packers division looks right now. But it's exciting to see that matchup. Almost every year. It pretty much lives up to the hype a lot of the time. George Kittle was a bright spot for me. I thought he looked back to where he was. He looked super dominant. He did
Finally,
get back.
He was getting the ball.
Yeah, true. He's banged up. He's day-to-day with a calf injury right now. May even miss a week. Who knows? But I thought Jimmy G played pretty well, apart from 2 bad turnovers. They were really bad turnovers.
The pick wasn't as bad. I thought it was a better player by the Packers, but that fumble was that was one of the that's just when I saw that fumble, all I could think of is the ceiling for the Niners. Like, how far can you go with this guy? I mean, you could say they went to the Super Bowl. I think they had the best defense, one of the best defenses of the decade, the best defense probably that year. Their O-line was great, their running game was great, and Jimmy G is probably the reason they lost because they had a chance to win with him, and they still lost. So I just don't know. Like, all the things fell into place and they got to the Super Bowl. I don't know if that's possible with Jimmy G again. Like, I don't know how they can just run it back because Jimmy G isn't the reason they got there. I mean, he helped them, but I don't know if he can carry them with their defense being worse, their running game being worse. It kind of feels like the Niners are just going to be a really good, like a good team, like one of the better good teams in the league, but not actual contenders.
Yeah, maybe. 2-1 teams now. We'll see how both these teams go. There's still a lot of season left.
Yeah, and even though Jimmy G played bad, they had a chance to win.
Yeah. They should have won, you could argue. I mean, how do you let that Devontae Adams play happen?
Yeah. Well, I thought the Packers...
I mean, it's a deep zone. It's a good play call design to get the linebackers up a little bit. Great throw, obviously. But, you do have to put, 9 guys on him. Or at least watch him. Make sure you know where he is at all times. Every defender on the field. So.
Yeah, why don't we jump to I want to talk about a few things. We can get to our power rankings in a bit. One stat I wanted to point out was the rookie QB so far are 1-11. With the only one win came from Mac Jones beating Zach Wilson. So I think we touched on it throughout the show today. Like, if you have a rookie QB, you can't expect much from that season. Basically, it's just tough.
Yeah, it goes to show how impressive some like rookie seasons have been in the past. Like the Cam Newton's rookie season was ridiculous. I mean, taking the worst offensive team, like statistically team, in like the whole decade to be like a above average offensive team. Andrew Luck's rookie season is ridiculous. Russell Wilson's rookie season is ridiculous. And it just goes to show like maybe these guys aren't that good because I know what you mean. It's hard to expect a lot, but you know rookie. A lot of teams on their rookie season are a lot of great quarterbacks do really well in their rookie year, and some don't. I think Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson are going to break. Maybe both of them break the Peyton Manning interception record this season because
Yeah,
I don't see how either gets benched, and that's all it is bad offense combined with playtime. Um,
yeah, yeah. I agree. I mean, I think the outliers are those guys you mentioned.
and
Uh,
Justin Herbert even look how impressive his season was last year. More
yeah,
of a
fair
recent example.
enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, so maybe you're right. Maybe these guys aren't as good. I think it's still only 3 weeks, a little bit too early to tell. I remember Russell Wilson wasn't that great in the first 3 weeks, even though he ended up finishing pretty solid. Maybe not as bad, but he definitely wasn't lighting it up.
Yeah, it was very conservative offense.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
even like Lamar Jackson is another guy. Like,
oh, he didn't play till week 9.
yeah,
It
you're right, but he played pretty well and got him to the playoffs. Went undefeated until
wasn't
the
bad, yeah.
Chargers game.
But like, let's see in week 9 how these guys are playing.
I'm sure, yeah. But the scariest thing about these rookie quarterbacks is they're probably the worst supporting cast that rookie quarterbacks have been plus like put
Yeah,
into. It
I
reminds me of
agree.
like Josh Rosen in 2018, which I still think is unfair. Josh Rosen. I mean,
I mean,
I
he's
don't know.
terrible and a douchebag for all
He was
intents and
very
purposes.
terrible, but he wasn't the worst quarterback of all time.
Yeah,
Mm,
he was
It's
bad, but you're right.
and then that might have been one of the worst supporting casts of all time.
I mean, you're right, because like even look at the Ravens that year. They drafted Lamar at 30th, right, or something,
Yeah,
29th. So it's not like they were. I mean, they had a high pick. They might have traded back or something, or traded up, but they weren't bad. Seahawks with Russ, they weren't bad.
I think
They
it's
had a lot of
also
talent.
contributing to defensive schemes in the NFL getting a lot more complicated, showing a lot more different looks that you won't see
Yeah,
in college. I think defense coordinators are evolving across the league. A lot less base defenses and a lot more multiple defenses with different formations, different nickel, dime. You're seeing that almost every team in the league right now. So it's a lot harder to throw the ball in the NFL.
yeah, and those things to learn just take time, right? Like
Yeah,
you can only learn so much. Even if you work 14 hours a day, you're not ingesting all the information. There's only so much time in the day, so
yeah.
give it a few weeks, give it a year. We'll see what's real. Another thing that's been interesting is the complete inversion of the AFC West compared to preseason rankings. I think most teams would have it been Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, and right now we're looking at Raiders, Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers. Raiders have a tiebreaker over the Broncos, I believe. So, what are your thoughts? Like, how do you think that division's going to shape up? What do you think the final
I think. I
semis
mean,
are?
apart from the Ravens, the thing is like the AFC East and the AFC South are so bad that you could potentially see three teams, and I think it's almost guaranteed that you'll see two teams in the wild card for the AFC West. Like the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. I don't care if they're 1-2. They're the best team, and I think they can beat any team in football any week. Um, and
I mean, yeah,
like
it's a two conference.
with
Or it's
how
a,
good
the
the
AFC is
Broncos and Raiders
two good
were,
divisions.
yeah,
Yeah,
two good divisions and two trash divisions. There's no right now. The Dolphins were a shot to make the wild card. I don't see that happening. I don't see the Patriots or the Dolphins contesting for that spot. Maybe just because of how lucky they are and how bad the AFC South is. Like, there's no way. It's so
Dolphins,
hard
I
to
think,
get a
still
wild
have a
card.
chance. Colts, I don't think have a chance in my opinion.
Bengals maybe even make the like. I just think the Raiders, Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs are all better teams. And the Ravens are probably going to make the playoffs too. And the Browns, obviously, I think are going to make the playoffs. So you can see 3 to 2 teams making it. Depending on how the Ravens season go, you never know.
So
They could.
what teams make it out of the AFC West?
Uh, Actually, you know what? I think all teams make it out of the AFC West. I think
I don't know if
all
that's
teams
even
make it out of the AFC
possible.
West. I think
It's
it is. I just explained why. I think the
no, but I
Ravens.
think like they have to play each other, and so I mean it brings down your division record. It brings down your conference record when you lose in division. So those are all tiebreakers that are really doesn't really matter. They have to be dominating. Like I mean,
The
just like
Raiders
thinking about it probabilistically, they're not all
very
four going to
unlikely.
make
Very
it.
unlikely.
But who do you? So let's say three get in, which I think is a very good chance. Which three?
No, or you're saying 3 instead of 4. I'm saying all 4 get in, but you're
I know,
saying
yeah,
3.
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's very low chance, even if they're all good. Like they're going to lose tiebreakers because of the nature of the division. So who do you think gets in? 3, 1 has to go.
And the Broncos have to go.
Broncos have to go. I don't hate it. I think they have. I think the biggest thing in the NFL is quarterback, and I think they have the worst out of the 4. And not like Teddy Bridgewater's playing bad, but I think he is the worst out of the bunch.
No, but here's the thing, though. I still think all 4 make it. I'm telling you right now. I think the Ravens look so shoddy against the Lions that they're gonna drop games this season against teams they shouldn't drop to. They have a difficult schedule. They won the division last year. They're playing all division winners. I just think the Ravens are gonna just not. I don't think the Ravens are gonna do well.
Yeah, I just feel like the Ravens would like the worst team in the AFC West. I don't think can finish better than like 10 wins. Just because, like I said, like okay, one team is not they're not gonna go undefeated out of division, and they're not gonna go undefeated in division. So one team is gonna finish 10-6. Even if that's the worst team, they'll lose a tiebreaker. Or 10-7, they'll lose a tiebreaker to the Raiders or the Ravens. 10-7, and like the Raiders are gonna go 10-7. I'm pretty.
I don't know. That's where I'm a little concerned about the
I
Ravens.
mean, who do they? What division do they play? The AFC West.
They're playing the NFC West. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to see. There's a lot. I'm not sure what NFC division they're playing, which could have an effect. Oh no, they're playing the NFC North, so maybe.
Yeah.
And
So
the
okay,
NFC West playing
that's pretty big.
the NFC West playing the NFC East, so that's they could all sweep there. I mean, except minus the Chargers, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it's possible, and I'm going in. It's definitely a hot take. All four
I
teams
don't even think like it's a hot take talent. Like I think they have better teams. But like the hot take is maybe one of them isn't better than the Ravens, but I think it's just a hot take because it's like nearly impossible. All right, let's move on.
be crazy for the first year.
Let's move on to the next segment. I'll lead it off.
Yeah, I will. So there's 5 teams right now that are undefeated after week 3. The Rams, Cardinals, Panthers, Broncos, Raiders.
Who would have guessed those are the 5 undefeated teams, bro? I guarantee
for
if
real.
there was like a parlay or something, or like a tournament, everyone would be eliminated by now. There would not be a single bracket that had these 5 teams.
No, you're well. Maybe if they analyze the schedule, I think you could have predicted the Broncos going 3-0. But I mean, that's probably the big like out of those 3 surprise teams. If you look at the Raiders,
Panthers.
Panthers, Broncos are the most 3 surprising. And the Cardinals even like you can look at their schedule and see it's possible.
It's possible, but like, yeah, you got to
guess
pick
you would-
upsets somewhere, and
Yeah, you're right on that. And you'd think that there'd be other teams that could have been on 3-0 as well that didn't.
yeah, exactly.
But
That's
let's
it
get into
too.
it. So we got 5 undefeated teams. We're gonna go real quick through this segment.
Let's do it.
Let's go 30 seconds for each person. We're gonna talk about which undefeated teams are real, which are fake. Right now, you started with the number 1, the Rams, on this easiest one.
I mean, they're 100% real. They're Super Bowl contenders. They're probably going to win the division. They're probably going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC.
I'm riding with real. I don't think they're gonna be the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Who's going to be the number 1 seed? They just beat the Bucks.
I think the Packers are gonna be the number 1 seed. And
I will say the Rams having a tough division hurts
I
that
think
case.
no, that's my thing. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that the Packers are worse than the Rams. I just think the Rams are going to
Okay.
drop games in their division, and the Packers are not going to drop games in their division. So I agree with you completely. They're definitely contenders. They'll definitely finish. They'll definitely make the playoffs. A dominant win against the Bucks, good wins against the Colts and Bears. I'm really excited to see next week Cardinals, Rams, and now that leads us to our next team, the Cardinals. Real or fake?
Gotta go real again. I'm 3-0. Titans and Minnesota, I think, are going to end up better than people think. They kind of started off slow. I think they're going to end up playoff teams, both of them. Obviously, they beat the Jaguars. They're good. They're good bottom to top. They have a good offense. They have a good defense, and Kyler Murray is a good quarterback. Not great. Not great. But
Fake on this one. I think while the Cardinals are a playoff contender, I still think in 100% that they're the worst team in their division. And if they can't make the playoffs, they can't be a contender to me. So I think they're going to lose the division.
Okay.
I think they're going to start this week with a dominant loss against the Rams. I think Kyler Murray is going to get hurt somewhere in the year. He's just throwing his body everywhere. DeAndre Hopkins is already struggling with injuries. This defense is weak on the back end. I think the Cardinals are the biggest fakers in the NFL right now.
Yeah, a little bit of a hot take there because their defense has played well. Not amazing, but pretty well.
The pass rush definitely is impressive. On to our next team. Probably the biggest surprise is the Panthers being 3-0 right now. Big win against the Jets, a big win against the Saints, and a big win against the Texans. So what's your opinion, real or fake?
Yeah, I gotta go fake here. I still don't think they're there yet. The injuries hurt their case even more. The division, they're not gonna win their division. They could get some wins off the Falcons and Saints, but I don't think they can make the playoffs with the way the NFC is shaping up.
I'm gonna cheat a little bit here. I'm gonna say half fake. I think they have a great shot to make the playoffs. I think the Panthers pass rush is a top 5 pass rush in the league. And the J.C. Horn loss is huge, but this offense just looks like they're moving the ball at will. And you might think I'm crazy, but I think their schedule is easy. I think they have an easy schedule.
They do have an easy schedule.
They've already picked up a huge win against the Saints. I could totally see them stealing
I don't think the Saints are who they're contending against, though. I think it's going to be the entire NFC West. They need to beat, let's say, 2 out of those teams to get to the wild card. I think the Vikings are playing for a wild card. I
just see them winning.
Yeah, I guess the NFC East doesn't really have any other teams, but I think it's a tough path.
I think they can win. And the AFC, they have an easy division in the NFC East or the AFC East, where I think they can go 3-1 in easily. I think the Panthers are going to get 10 wins this year, so I'm calling them half real. I don't know if they're Super Bowl contenders, but I think they get 10 wins, and I think they contend for a playoff spot. Which I don't think the Cardinals get 10 wins.
Cardinals. If the Cardinals don't get 10 wins, they have to go 6-8 in the rest of their games. They're not playing a last place schedule. They're playing an easier schedule. They're playing a pretty easy schedule.
0 in division games. We'll see when they play the Rams next week.
I just don't even think it's.
I think Kyler gets hurt. I just think it's bound to happen.
If they get hurt, then obviously yeah. But 9-7 just feels like almost out of reach at this point. It feels almost out of reach at this point, though. They also got to play the Colts. They also got to play the Texans. Feels a little tough.
Well, we'll see.
Right,
real or fake? Number 4, the Denver Broncos. We just talked about it. I have them not going to make the playoffs, but their first 3 wins are against maybe the worst 3 teams in the league: the Giants, Jags, and Jets, with 3 of the worst quarterbacks in the league: Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence, and Zach Wilson. So what do you think, real or fake?
In terms of real being making the playoffs, I think they're real. I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't know who they're gonna beat out, but I think they're gonna get a wild card slot. And I think it's because they have a solid defense, and Teddy Bridgewater is playing really well, and he complements that defense well, because he doesn't need to push it, he doesn't need to press, because the defense will put him in good positions, and he's playing well. He just period. So I think it's real. They're a playoff contender. They're more than a playoff contender. I think they have a great shot at becoming a wild card team.
I'm gonna same deal with the Panthers here. I'm gonna say half real, half fake. I
I
think.
think these this is your idea, and you're just putting out these halvesies. Like, you
Okay,
gotta
I'll
commit.
I'll buy in. I said they were gonna all four teams are gonna make the playoffs. I'll say they're
You
100%
did.
real, and I think my if they lose to the Ravens this week, huge game in conference. Even though how early it is in the season, they lose to the Ravens this week. I'm jumping ship. I'm bailing. The Broncos aren't making the playoffs. I take my whole take out, and they're fake. But
Well, it will
as
affect their
what's in
chances
front of me
big
right
time.
now, they're 3-0, three blowout wins.
So what
They
if they
got a
win this week? Because the
elite
Ravens
defense.
are pretty beat up. Like I think this is
No,
definitely a
if they
losable
win
game
this
for the
week,
Ravens.
which I think they will, I think they make the playoffs, and all four AFC West teams do. But I
Yeah, I
don't
don't
think they
see
have a
that
chance.
scenario yet, but
Either way, I don't see them having a chance to make the to winning the Super Bowl.
oh yeah, they're not real. They're not Super Bowl real.
However, my next team, the Raiders, who have beaten the Ravens in overtime, the Miami Dolphins in overtime, and the Pittsburgh Steelers in a pretty dominant game, uh, are also 3-0. What are your thoughts, real or fake?
Yeah, I'm just gonna echo my sentiment on the Broncos. I think they're real in terms of getting a good like. I think they're top. I think they're a top team for a wild card slot right now. Like if you were to rank all the teams that are going to play for the wild card, assuming let's say the Chiefs, assuming they don't win the division, I don't care who does. I think they're the best wild card team right now. Best odds, they beat the Steelers and the Ravens, who would be two other contenders, and Miami. They beat the three other contenders from other divisions. So I think they have the best chance of making the playoffs. And I think they've beaten some good competition. They pulled out wins through adversity. They're just a good team. They're not going to win the Super Bowl, but they're a good team.
I completely agree. I'm saying real on the Raiders. They're the best wild card team. However, I do think they probably lose this week at the Chargers. I just don't see the streak continuing. I still think they make the playoffs. I'm not too concerned about the Raiders. I think the Chargers are a good team. I think all of those teams can beat each other. I still don't think any other team beats the Chiefs this year. I just think Chiefs are so good. I don't know. But I'm saying 100% real. The Raiders are going to make the playoffs. You already heard me say it about all teams. The Raiders are going to make the playoffs. They might lose this week against the Chargers. I still won't be concerned.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see that matchup. I
Yeah.
I don't at this point I can't even count the Raiders out because they've just shown so much fight. Let's move on. We're an hour plus in. We're getting to the best part of the day, power rankings. Who do you got after week 3? Who is in your top 5? Little Dog, go.
I have to say this is the toughest week yet. I think the NFL has so many great teams, at 2-1, even some great teams at 1-2. I still believe in the Seahawks. I still believe in the Vikings. I still believe in the Chiefs. All are going to make the playoffs. So those are three teams. 2-1 teams that are going to make my list: the Ravens, the Chargers, the Cowboys. There's a lot of great teams in the NFL. So you can already maybe even detect who I've got on my list right now.
The NFL is back, and
But
you could be watching free
whoa.
live football.
Got some audibles coming in.
Some audibles, yeah. I mean, that's a great intro. So my number 5 team going into week 4 is the Green Bay Packers. I think the first game was a fluke. However, they're still number 5 because, I mean, they just sneaked by the win here. I think the refs had a lot to do with it. I still think that Eric Stokes isn't a great cornerback. They're weak there in the secondary, apart from Jair. Even Jair played. I mean, he let up a touchdown on Ayuk. The linebacker core isn't great. I think the defense is really struggling. But I still believe Aaron Rodgers is the top 3 quarterback in the NFL. He's number 2. Top 3 and number 2. And I believe in Aaron Rodgers. I believe in this team. Devontae Adams is dominant. MVS looks better than he has. And Randall Cobb obviously loves Randall Cobb. So that's my number 5. Number 4, I got the Browns. 2 straight weeks I got the Browns number 4, I believe. No movement here. It was kind of a dead game. They still look dominant when they're ahead. I'm not sure about when they're behind. Their one loss is against the Chiefs, who are not on my list, just because it's hard to argue that a losing team should be in the top 5. But not much to say about the Browns. I think they're number 4 for me. Number 3, I got the Buffalo Bills. I think they're the best team in the AFC right now, according to my list. I think that they're gonna. I think they have the easiest division. I think they're gonna finish the year either 13-4 or 14-3. The, this offense just looks too explosive. Even after the first week with a fully healthy
Short-term memory, huh?
I mean, not really. Like going back to last year, this offense was dominant. They were AFC Championship team.
I don't think they look good against the Dolphins or the Steelers.
It's hard to say they didn't look good against the Dolphins when they scored 35 points and won the game. And their defense looks better than it has been last year. It's looking good. It was great against the football team this week. It was great against the Steelers. It was great against the Dolphins. All 3 teams suspect offenses, but I think this team is ready. I don't know if they win the championship, but right now I have them as the best team in the AFC. And that leads us to our number 2 spot. I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They did look concerning this week. It was in LA. There's a lot of things that didn't go their way in this game. They did get dominated, but the Bucs look so good. They're the Super Bowl winners of last year. They played the best team in the NFL. A little bit of a spoiler. Not really, though, because we spoiled it already about 6 times on the show. But I got the Bucs at number 2. I think Tom Brady's elite. And I think they're the best 2-1 team in football. And number 1, not much to be said. The most explosive team in the NFL. Maybe the best defense in the NFL.
Seattle Seahawks?
Yeah, maybe explosive, like diarrhea. I think the Seahawks are so bad in so many ways and so good in so many ways. But I got the Rams at number 1, and not much to say about it.
All right. Yeah, I'll just slide in right here. We got a good. I want to first give a shout out to all my teams that didn't make the top 5 because it's a tough week. Only ranking 5 teams is tough. It feels like if you're left out of the top 5, you're just another team. But trust me, there are teams that probably could be in this top 5, but you can't have them all. So number 5 coming in is the Cardinals. I think they've just proven themselves to be good. They have wins against the Titans and Minnesota, who I think are both playoff teams. Like I said, their defense is playing well. Their offense is playing well. Kyler Murray is really good. So it's hard to really bring him down when I haven't seen that much weakness. Winning in the NFL isn't easy. They've done it. Number 4, we got the Packers. And I was kind of high on the Packers even after their first week because I thought their first week was more of an outlier than the rest of the season. They handled the Lions. They came back, beat the Niners, who are a tough out, who they have struggled with in the past big time. They beat them on the road. That's great. I think they're still a good team. They still have a lot of talent, and they're hurt, and I think they're just going to get healthier and better. Number 3, this might be a surprise, but I'm giving respect where respect is due. We got the Las Vegas Raiders coming in. I think they're just scrappy. They play through adversity. They have some good players in defense. I'm seeing way more diversity in their offense. Henry Ruggs is becoming a good deep threat for them. They have balance, short, intermediate, long. Everything's kind of working out for them pretty well. So they deserve the 3rd spot on the power rankings until they prove that they don't belong here. I'm going to leave them there.
Interesting. I think it's interesting that you said they're the best wild card team and you have them at number 3, the second best team in their conference.
Okay, so I could put the Chiefs up here. I could have the Chiefs up here the whole year, but I mean, well, what's the point of that, right? What's the point?
You're right.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, only one person wins in the division, and everyone else is a wild card. So maybe the Chiefs should be over here, but I think in the long term, the Chiefs are obviously better. Number 2, we got the Browns. I think the Browns are just a really balanced team. Their defense clearly has a ton of talent. I'd love to see a Browns-Bills matchup right now. I think Browns could honestly win that game because they can control the line of scrimmage on defense, put pressure on Josh Allen, and they have a great run game. The addition of Odell Beckham will add another layer to their offense. I think they're number 2. Lastly, we got the Seattle Los Angeles Rams coming in at number 1. They looked unbeatable. I'm super stoked for their next 2 games. They play 2 divisional games, Cardinals and Seahawks. That'll be the true kind of telling, I think. See if they can maintain this high level of play. I think they're fighting for the number 1 seed overall. They have a great shot at it. Matt Stafford has proven to be the missing piece so far. Any final comments?
My final comments to you is your top 2 teams after last week, Bucks, Chiefs, both not on your top 5. Explain. You talk about the Chiefs.
I should explain. I think the Chiefs. I thought last game against the Ravens, they've kind of shown like characteristic flaws of them early in the year where they struggle on defense, and I thought that was just another thing. This past week, they were just sloppy. I think if they play sloppy like this, if the O-line doesn't play as well, they have turnovers, then yeah, they might not win the Super Bowl. They might not make it that far in the playoffs. I think it's the reality. But I also think a team with Patrick Mahomes can't be counted out. So right now I'm saying they're outside of the top 5, but they could be back into it pretty quick. And, they're struggling right now. There's no denying it. To the Bucks, yeah, I hate to move them down so far, but I thought they just got dominated top to bottom. I thought some other teams deserve some of the limelight. I don't think they easily win over the Browns. I honestly don't think they easily win over the Raiders. I actually think they lose to the Browns right now, just because they're not healthy. They're missing a bunch of guys.
True. Quarterback's a real issue for them.
So just in head-to-head matchups, you might take the Bucks and the Chiefs in a lot of these games because of their quarterback. But besides that, their team play hasn't been as good as these other teams, I'd say. That's my take. So.
Yeah. Some interesting notes for me in total. It's just, how many times has the Chiefs been out of the top 5 in the last 3 years? Just in general, I think a lot of people will have them out of it. And
this is their first time having a losing record since
Patrick Mahomes?
2015.
Yeah. Or 2015. Wow.
Yeah.
I think another interesting notice that, like we pointed out, I think there's 15 teams that you could argue could go in the top 5.
Maybe 12, maybe not 15.
There's a lot. You look at all the 5-0 teams; those all have arguments. There's at least, Chiefs you could argue for.
Bucks.
The Bucks you could argue for. Of course, the Cowboys you could argue for. There's the Chargers you could argue for. There's so many teams that you could argue for.
Yeah, I want to honorable mention
you could argue for. Both of us had them at the last week, and they win again, and we have them out, obviously.
Who?
The Ravens, we both had us in their top 5 last week, and they're out.
Yeah. Well, I thought they played a worse game than other teams. Sure.
I think the explanation is
even though they won
for the Ravens. But, they have arguments to be there.
Yeah, and sure. I want to say my 6th team on this list would not be the Bucks or the Chiefs. It would be the Dallas Cowboys. They barely lost to the Bucks week 1. They beat the Chargers. I think they're clicking. I think they're a pretty scary team to face in the NFC. Definitely not like Super Bowl contenders yet, in my opinion, because I think they have question marks, but they're scary.
Another team, the Niners. Who knows? If they went 3-0, this week, I probably have them in my top 5 instead of the Packers. We both have the Packers as a number as in there.
Fair enough. If they win, yeah.
Yeah, they'd be 3-0. I consider them real at 3-0 or at 2-1 more than the Cardinals are. So there's a lot of things. My shout out to the Panthers. I got the Panthers at number 6 on mine. Maybe they'll sneak in next week after a huge win against the Cowboys. Big matchup. Both of our number 6s going head to head next week. Definitely something interesting to watch. But yeah, I think it's a super exciting time for the NFL. A lot of teams can beat a lot of teams. A lot less dominance. Chiefs dominance looks like it's over. Still probably there, but not dominant for sure. So that's exciting. It's exciting.
Yep, parity in the NFL is always unmatched. I love it. All right, let's wrap up this show. I think we're gonna do a show on Wednesday, previewing the Seahawks-Niners game. We're gonna have Yosh come in. He's gonna give us the lowdown on the Niners, tell us what's good, what's bad. I think this is a great test for both teams. So all the Hawks fans out there, stay tuned for that. We got the Responsible Bet airing Thursday, maybe around 8 o'clock this week. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be recapping some of the last week's wins and also going over some of the best lines for next week. Hey, if you guys want to stay up to date, follow Big Dog _ Little Dog on Instagram, Big Dog Little Dog on Twitter. And that's all.
Yeah.